How great this bag is depends on your adventure. The best part? The Tilopa is 50 liters and can fit just about everything that you own. They've updated this since I got my pack. The new version is largely improved, but I'll call out a few quirks. Finding the perfect camera bag is frustrating, and they are all expensive. I went a bit crazy deciding on this because I so badly wanted to combine features from multiple bags. I've had this for more than a year. I've taken it across the country, and I think the size of your pack is going to be the second biggest factor in whether or not you fall in love with it. The first consideration is whether the Peak Design capture clips fit the straps. Check. The focus here will be what I like and dislike in the different contexts that I've used the bag. It's not going to be an itemized feature list video because that's not typically what we shoot to do here on this channel. This bag isn't perfect, but I'm pretty happy with the Tilopa 50 liter. But here's the twist, and there is a twist. Just kidding, that comes at the end. For starters, I got the Pro Large ICU bundle with a rain cover for $419 at the time. That's now $449 for this particular bundle. And I grabbed gatekeeper straps for another $15. Spend this much and the extra straps should absolutely come included, but alas. I'll address the incremental improvements that f-stop has made to this bag since I got my version, but it's $499 for the next gen DuraDiamond update. F-stop's Slope Medium ICU is also compatible here, in addition to the Pro Large ICU. That way you have some configurability in your gear to non-gear ratio. The DuraDiamond refers to the new material that they're using on the exterior of this bag. The biggest differences are the fabric, the hardware and zippers, and changes to the side pockets, the front flap, and the back panel, all of which make for better compartmentalized packing. Unless you like the long side pockets of my model, but we're gonna cover why I still prefer those. If you have a strict budget and the DuraDiamond breaks it, look around, pick up this model if you can still find it. Otherwise, I think it probably makes sense for most people to go with the DuraDiamond, stay current, and just reap the benefits of that extra weather repellence. And actually, last note on price, f-stop feels like they are positioned at the top end of bags. With camera bags this size, for the ICU bundles, they're pretty much all parked between $300 and $500. So if this is your first bag, prepare for some sticker shock. It's not as fun as a new lens or a new body, but you should research and evaluate kind of with the same rigor. They keep your stuff protected and dry, obviously with you, and they really shape how enjoyable your shooting and travel experiences are. I'm going to start with some of the gripes that I find in my uses, because I think the DuraDiamond update addresses a lot of those. First is the water bottle conundrum. F-stop seems to bank on the fact that you will use a water bladder. That's probably a fair assumption for an adventure bag this size, but I don't have one, and I'm not really looking to start using one at this time. While stashing bottles in side pouches is possible, it's not quick access. So on either model, there's a few ways that you can solve this. For smaller bottles, the DuraDiamond probably holds them well in the new horizontal slash pockets. If you have a clippable bottle, like the Grail Purifier, it could go on the belt of either model. But I took advantage of the Molly system and added what's arguably the best $20 accessory that you can get for this bag, a water bottle holder that fits your standard Nalgene. When I don't have a bottle in here, I put small accessories, snacks, my phone, or bear spray. The side pockets are going to differ depending on your version of the bag. The new DuraDiamond has shortened the vertical pouch and has a new horizontal one. Good for bottles, for tripod feet, and there's now actual organization in each. In short, much better for camera accessories, but I'm not sure if I'm a big fan. While the longer, unstructured vertical pockets aren't great for accessories, they are great for rolled clothes, socks, underwear, t-shirt, gym shorts, and for things like hard shell glasses cases. I don't have many camera accessories that I want exposed to bumps on the side of the pack. So while the extra organization seems cool, I preferred kind of the unstructured nature of these long vertical pockets. And then this next thing will only apply to some people, but the Peak Design travel tripod does fit snugly in one of these side pouches on my older version with almost no room to spare. I love that because then your tripod becomes one less thing for the bag to snag on or to rattle around when you're just hauling. Also, in the context of my road trip, I liked how the tripod fit completely in the side pouch and looked, at least to the untrained eye, a little bit more like just simply a backpacking pack. Whenever I could on that trip, I tried to avoid signaling that this bag was filled with thousands of dollars in gear and hundreds of gigs in unedited, work-in-progress content. The back panel is new for the Duradiamond over my version, and it's a big plus if you'll be carrying your laptop with you often. Same concept as the side pouches, f-stop has introduced a more structured approach, and it adds the laptop sleeve here. On my version, there's some webbing that I don't utilize much, and one unstructured zipper pouch that I keep cables, batteries, and small accessories in. The laptop sleeve is internal to the main compartment, and it's actually pretty difficult to get into when the bag is fully packed. That only bugs me a little because I'm using it more to transport the MacBook as opposed to taking it in and out repeatedly. I would prefer the sleeve on the back panel for transport, but when it comes to actually hiking and using the bag, I don't want that much weight or anything of value on that back panel. And you might say, well, how often do you hike with the laptop in the bag? The answer is, it depends. And perhaps more often than you would like if you're on a road trip and you don't want to leave said laptop in the car or your tent. The way this pack is designed, you will often place it down on the ground. The dirt, the grass, the sand, the snow, and I don't want to have to be too careful flipping that panel open if it is much heavier with my MacBook in it. All of these gripes I've worked around or lived with. These are the types of things that one bag may cover better than another, so it really pays to imagine how you'll use the bag most and then choose the compromises that are easiest to live with long term. Otherwise, what we have left is a comfortable pack with an aluminum frame, plenty of attachment points, and something that you can use to hold a ton of gear. The hip straps and shoulder straps have been comfortable and are padded. I like the flip open back panel, and the two top access pockets are great. The smaller, very top one I like using for keys, phone, wallet, snacks, chargers. The second I like using for a sweatshirt, clothes, maybe an extension cord and tape when shooting freelance stuff. Again, it's built to get dirty, so I like the durable, rubberized bottom panel, and the rainfly fits in the included pocket. The Pro Large ICU is great to choose if you have more camera gear than not. That's why I like to refer to this as my mobile gear closet. It attaches to the frame inside with Velcro to stay firmly seated, and the front flap folds under the unit to allow direct access through the open back panel. Just remember that if you go with the large, you won't have a ton of room for other stuff. So what does the Pro fit? If you're new here, I shoot Canon RF with an R6, RP, the f4 zooms, and the more affordable, smaller primes. So all in all, my gear ranges from small to medium items on the mirrorless side. I don't think I've hiked more than 2 or 3 miles at a time when it's stuffed full. And the longest I've hiked so far is about 8 or 9 miles. And for those, I usually remove any gear that's unnecessary to bring with me. If you have less camera gear and you do longer, more serious hiking, 50 liters might be overkill. But even if the total bag volume of 50 liters isn't overkill, the Pro Large ICU might be, because you won't be using that all, and it's a less efficient way to pack if you're bringing less gear on those longer hikes. In that case, you might commit to the medium slope ICU. One thing that's a bit annoying is to configure the ICU for a camera with a grip. With the grip on my R6, I couldn't just slot that into my old configuration. I have to either remove the grip for transport, remove the lens for transport, or rearrange a bit to accept the gripped body and lens. But keeping that big of a space to slot the gripped body with a lens on isn't the most efficient way to pack. Something to note if you're shooting with a grip or if you're shooting with a pro body. And while you can definitely fit them in vertically into the ICU, the Canon L primes are a bit of a pain to get in. I rented the 85mm at the same time, and they're massive. So big, heavy primes might be magical, but shooting with them and carrying them isn't. I had to rearrange everything to accommodate those, so it wasn't the most efficient way to pack the bag. The Slope Medium still holds a good amount of mirrorless gear. Something to consider if you're running one body, 2 to 3 lenses, and still want room for clothes and other non-camera gear related things. And finally, some classic use cases. I haven't flown since the pandemic, but I will be internationally soon, and I'm pretty nervous about this bag to the point where I don't think I'm gonna try to bring it. Anecdotally, people say that this fits overhead, if not overstuffed, but I think it's fairly well outside dimensions if somebody calls you out. If they make you check the bag, the ICU becomes your savior here, as you can remove it before checking the bag, zipper up the front panel, and it should be plenty protective enough in the overhead compartment. Anything else that you don't want under the plane in case they lose your pack, just make sure you leave some space in the ICU. For me, that means I might toss in a battery or two and memory cards, This probably also means having a spot to keep your laptop in a separate, smaller carry-on backpack that would sit with you just in case. This is a scenario where, while I like 50 liters, I don't want to bring it on the flight, and I don't need my mobile gear closet with me on those types of trips. 50 liters is great for a weekend trip or camping trips, especially if you aren't bringing all your camera gear with you. This 50 liter plus a backpack or duffel is all you'll probably need. If it's a less intense trip, like staying at a friend's house or an Airbnb, where you're simply bringing the camera and one lens, I like ripping out the ICU completely, packing my clothes in the bag, and just rolling with the camera on the shoulder strap. This is where you could go with the Slope medium ICU, or perhaps something smaller altogether. The full 50 liters and the Pro Large is helpful if you're moving often, and this was super helpful for my use cases. I was moving a lot in 2020 and 2021. Right now I have my own space and I have room to store gear outside of my bag here. But if you're renting often and moving often, it's helpful to be able to consolidate it and keep it all in one place. I would say longer day hikes with the Pro Large ICU is one of the weaknesses of this bag. Doable for sure, but if you're like me and stick with medium difficulty hikes under around 8 miles, you're probably carrying around too much bag if this is your primary use case. Although, if you're a boss, you're in great hiking shape, you shoot mostly nature and landscape, and you need all of your equipment to produce the content that you typically produce, then that's probably a positive. For this reason, and as I've started using this bag in new ways as we come out of the pandemic, I was intrigued by their Duradiamond Ajna 37 liter bag. This is the twist I mentioned at the beginning. And this is something to consider if you're on the fence about the size. I would recommend looking into that 35 liter class of bag if you think 50 liters is too much, and or day hiking and travel are your primary use cases. The Ajna looks just like the younger sibling of this pack and had me so intrigued that I'm gonna test this as well and share the results. I'll dive deeper into the reasoning behind trying both when I review it, but thanks in part to everyone watching and a recent freelance side gig, we'll have chances to look more at both of these bags on the channel. If you want to see the rest of the gear that I try to cram into this sack, check out the first 2 videos of this gear bag series.